Peace and greetings, family. I wanted to take a moment to send a shout out to our fathers. I'm a daddy's girl. And so Father's Day is coming up, and we recognize our fathers on the second Sunday of June, just like we recognize our mothers on the second Sunday of May. It's just another opportunity to capitalize on that which we love. But I wanted to talk about the impact and the influences that the fathers have on their daughters. Now, most of the time we talk about fathers and their sons and how they interact and how it's important for the sons to have a mentor and a role model to look up to. But we ignore the tremendous impact that fathers have on their daughters and on their little girls. Me, myself, I'm a daddy's girl. And so knowing that my daddy is there, knowing that I can call him and I can communicate with him, knowing that I have his support and he's active in my life, it makes all the difference, not just with me, but with his grandchildren as well and his granddaughters as well. So I just wanted to share this information with you on today. Now, studies have shown that girls, typically between the ages of 4 and 5, they create the assumptions of, what is it like to be a successful woman and what is it like to see the interaction of a male-female relationship between man and woman at that young of age. So even though we're not discussing the intricacies and, what is it like to have proper male-female relationships, through osmosis, through being around in the environment, they're able to pick up for themselves and make assumptions based on how they see their mothers and their fathers interact. And if their fathers are not around, then whoever the father figure role model is, or the male presence, the dominant male presence in their life. And so knowing that, we know that there's great impact on the woman. So when you look at how fathers influence their daughters, you look in the areas of the relationship, how how she's expected to deal with men in the future, and not just one man, but all men, because she's going to be dealing with that particular influence of her father. The impact of herself. A lot of times these girls, when their fathers are around, if they receive the support and the encouragement and the communication and the love, they have a higher self-esteem. Third, when you look at the dad and daughter influence, you have to look at their psychological well-being. And, let's be true about it. When a father is there in the lives of the daughters, then, there is a positive influence that positively affects them psychologically. And then finally, you have to look at the quality of relationships when a daddy and a daughter have a supportive, encouraging, and a communicative relationship with each other. Now, but when let's go back to the beginning. When you have a lack thereof of a relationship, and what you see in relationships, they're broke down. She doesn't have a role model or a proper standard or appropriate standard to gauge what a healthy relationship is with a man. And so what she tends to do is she acts it out in other relationships later on in life. She has a hard time being able to associate intimately and emotionally with a man. Psychologically, there's studies have shown that there's high rates of teen depression. When the daddy and the daughters do not emote or bond at such a young age. The daughters have body issues or eating disorders or self-esteem issues when they're really not connected to their fathers. And truth be told, when the father is in the home, the daughters look towards the father for approval. Yes, we may, look to our mothers, but when daddy says something, word is bond, he's put it down, and we are always looking for that approval from our fathers, just like we do with our own men, because we want to serve, and it's in our nature to want to serve and please our men, please our fathers. We are just natural consolers. And so when we don't get the approval of our fathers, or there's some conflicting images of what a father should be, or a role model, a male role model in our lives should be, then that plays out later on in life and how we address the men in our lives. And so when you have fathers who are engaged with their daughters, the quality of relationships they have are more fruitful. They're more lasting. You look at teenage pregnancies. When a daughter has a relationship with her father, you see less teenage pregnancies. You see daughters waiting to have sex. They'll wait to marriage if their father is constant in their lives. And then when they do get married, those marriage relationships last much longer. There were studies that show that, when a daddy and a daughter is bonded, they're communicating, there's support, there's encouragement, and he's focused on her academics, he's focused on her athletics. She tends to be a high achiever. And when she's a high achiever, she's more successful in her career. She is, not only is she more successful in her career, but she tends to have high-paying jobs. When you look at female political leaders, a lot of them, you see that their fathers were very active in their lives. So this daddy-daughter relationship, it has great impact of the future of the woman. So we can't negate that relationship. We have to continue to encourage. And so I know that there's some relationships with the mother and the father that just did not work out, or the father probably just was not there. But then there are relationships where the daddy is trying to have a relationship with the daughter, and there is divorce. And the worst thing that a mother could do is to get in between him and his child, and the ability to offer encouragement, support, especially a daughter. So even though you may be divorced, you can still co-parent. So I just wanted to talk about some of the tips that daddies could do to help encourage, help foster the relationship that they have with their daughter, because that relationship is highly influential to the success. And I would beg to differ to say that maybe ultimately her success and relationships in life in the future. So there are 10 tips. So here they are. 1, love her mother. You have to give an example to her about what love is. So when you love her mother, even if you're not with her, you can still do things to show respect, to show appreciation, to admire her. You got to find something. Even if you may be fighting with the mother and the mother is difficult to even deal with, what you don't want to do is to create an environment where the mother is the bad person, because what happens is she is going to take on that role and responsibility, and her self-esteem is going to be affected in the process. So love the mother regardless. 2, practice consistency, or I like to say, make your word bond. When you are consistent with your daughter, when you make your word bond, then the trust issues that she may have if you're not around or lack thereof, then, you're able to make her feel secure in her person. She knows what to expect. And she knows that, a lot of the black women I know be like, men are dogs. They can't be trusted for nothing. She won't live up to grow up into that reality. She'll be able to trust a man, but she'll also know what a man who is trustworthy is. So be consistent with your word. Make your word bond. 3, give unconditional love. That's what we need. As a little girl, as a woman, we want that unconditional love from our fathers. We're not perfect, but we know that if you give us that unconditional love, then we will be able to return that unconditional love to you right back. And a daughter needs to feel like she is loved. 4, offer her encouragement. By offering her encouragement, then you help lift her self-esteem. And when you lift her self-esteem, issues like eating disorders or depression, she will not have to suffer from that, because she knows that she's secure in her person and that the number one man in her life has given her that encouragement. So who cares what anybody else has to say, because daddy said it all. 5, participate in her activities, and you allow her to participate in yours. By allowing her to participate in your activities and you participating in hers, that lets her know from the beginning that you care, because your time means that you care. And a lot of times that is an opportunity for you to continue to bond with her. So be active with her. I know, growing up in some households, I've seen fathers who just are there but may be absent. Mothers are doing everything with their daughters, but the daughters are not getting an opportunity to share with their fathers. So make sure that you participate in her activities and she participates in yours as well. Be vulnerable and admit your mistakes. Now, men have egos, boys have egos, but what is an ego is when you're edging God out. So when you show that you have vulnerability, that you make mistakes, and she knows that daddy is human, then you know what? that allows her to be able to deal with you on a whole nother spectrum and be able to accept you for your flaws. And when there are mistakes that happen, then the forgiveness will be wide open and free flowing. 7, again, tell her she's beautiful. You tell your daughter she's beautiful, and she's less likely for someone on the outside and in the world to prescribe what beauty is for her, because the world is telling her that she is not beautiful enough unless she weighs a certain size, if she's a certain skin type, if she looks a certain way, if her clothes a certain way. But if daddy constantly tells her who she is and how beautiful she is, can't no man snake up, a slithering snake come to her and tell her she's beautiful and then try to get her in the bed and take her clothes off and steal the virtue from her. But if daddy's telling her enough and putting it in her heart, in her ears, that she's beautiful and she feels that, then her self-esteem is such that she doesn't necessarily have to hear from another man who's going to use and abuse her. 8, protect your daughters. Not only do you need to protect her physically, but you have to protect her mentally, spiritually, emotionally, and sexually. We know that there are predators out there who want to prey on our girls and on our women. And so when daddy takes the place and stands up and say, oh no, this is not going to happen. When daddy makes sure that she's secure, make sure that everything about her person is secure, then mentally and emotionally, she will be secure in her own self. 9, be intentional about the standard that you demonstrate to her on a daily basis, because you are going to be the benchmark for what a man is in her life. And she will forever remember the image of her father. She will forever remember how her father taught her. She will forever remember how her father treated her mother. You are that standard. So when you are dealing with your daughters, be intentional about what you present and how you treat and how you act around your daughter. And then finally, and I can't stress this enough, be mindful about how you treat any woman in your life, because your daughters are watching. If you are mistreating the mother, if you are mistreating another one of your daughters, if you are mistreating women, period, calling them out of their names, sexualizing them, anything derogatory, I promise you, the influence that you have on your daughter is great, and she's going to forever remember this. So treat your daughters how you want her husband to treat her. And you don't want any man treating your daughter any kind of way. So remember, when you teach a man, you teach an individual, but when you teach a woman, you teach a whole civilization, and can no nation rise higher than its woman. Thank you, and happy Father's Day.